Good afternoon, everyone. It feels very strange to talk with a microphone in a small room like this with people I know, but we're recording the session for folks who can't make it here today. So I'm Anna Olsen, and I'm really happy to welcome you on behalf of the Center for Faculty Excellence to this session. There's one word up here on the screen that has been on lately, retention. We all do so much to get students to come to AU, especially right now, but I believe that there's a lot more creative things we can do to actually also keep our students here. And I do think that faculty, especially faculty teaching first-year classes, play a very important role. Also regardless of the field, to help our first-year students get a good start of their time at AU so that they eventually end up having a greater chance of staying and completing their degree here. Is there an echo? Yeah, okay. All right, so we're here today to talk about strategies to do this, and I'm very excited to introduce four amazing colleagues who are here on the panel and also my co-facilitator, Mendoza. Start with you, who is CFE Faculty Associate for Teaching, and also a faculty member in the College of Arts and Sciences, World Languages and Cultures Department. Let's start with you, Amara. Amara de Cure is Senior Professorial Lecturer in the School of Education, where she teaches education studies and social justice, education leadership, and research methods, among other things. She joined AU in 2017. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's what Google said. And taught complex problems last fall. So just touching on what the first year courses are that each of our panelists have been teaching recently. Welcome, Amara. Kelly Joyner is Hearst Senior Professorial Lecturer in the Department of Literature and is also the Director of the Writing Studies program. He joined AU in, wait for it, 2000. Nobody ever says that. Do you say 2000 or 2000? I don't know. In Sweden, we say 2000. So anyway, so long time. Our most experienced faculty member on this panel. And Kelly teaches first-year college writing every semester. And everyone else who teaches first-year courses are very thankful to you for that. All right, Scott Talon, right here next to me, is Senior Professorial Lecturer in the School of Communication, where he teaches courses on media, personal branding, social media, and research methods. He joined AU in 2010 and taught Com 100, Understanding Media, in the spring. And finally, on the far end of the table, Lizzie Warden, who's Associate Professor in the School of Education, where she teaches comparative and international. Oh, congratulations! When? Woo! Just now? No, like June. Oh my goodness. We need some PR. Let's blame it on AI. Okay, professor. So Lizzie joined AU in 2007. She's also Interim Associate Dean of Undergraduate Education as of this year, where she also teaches the first year class Encounter AU, or taught in the fall. Will you be teaching it again? Yeah. All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started with some questions that we've prepared for our panelists. So Lillian and I will just bounce the mic back and forth, and I'm going to sit down for this part. And then we'll end the session with questions from all of you. And then at the very end, for the last half hour or so, we have a mini fair prepared where some student-facing offices, support offices, will be here to answer your questions and provide some materials. All right, so let's start with this question here for all of you, and we'll just let each of you in turn answer it. What are some of the joys and benefits of teaching first-year students at AU?
So I would say energy, but I'm going to say garrulous because I've got two other G's. So they're energetic / garrulous. They need guidance, and then I can see their growth. So I just ran into this student, Aiden, the other day. We're recording this. No. So I ran into this student who shall remain nameless, and they would always hang out in office hours, and they were trying to look at what they were going to do. And wow, a year later, they've studied abroad. They're now VP for an SOC student group, and they've got 2 internship offers. And I just said, my job's done. I'm done. You're done. Right. And that was wonderful to see. So that this idea of garrulous, that energy, the first year energy, the guidance you can offer, and then their growth. So that's why I like it. And the Com 100 class is not easy. It may not sound big, but for SOC, it's the biggest class with 45 students. It's required for every SOC major: film, journalism, PR. But I get other students from other schools, and they think, oh, media, this must be easy because they're media experts because they're on TikTok all day. And then it's a little bit of a rude awakening. And it's also all different years: first year, second year, third year, fourth year. So it's a challenging class, but I love it. And I've taught it every semester since 2010. And one year, someone who shall remain nameless, who's a professor, mistakenly left me off the schedule, and I got pissed. And it's never happened again. I want to teach the class. Others don't, but I want to teach the class. I love teaching the class.
I will echo Scott. The energy factor is really cool. They're new enough. They're not jaded yet. So they really want to please. They really want to learn. They want to know where they can get information. They want to develop their bullshit detectors. And they're looking to us to help with that. They want to look smart. I like to meet with them as early as I can, one-on-one, maybe the first week or the second week, just so I can get to know them. If I can get to know them, know their names and their faces, and let them know that I know who they are individually, then I think I can be a better teacher. Plus, they also, I hope, get from that I'm going to hold them accountable. And, you know, if they come into class late, as we were talking about, I can say, Scott, good to have you. And maybe they will get the message. But we're talking about Joyce. The energy and just they really want to learn. They're AU students, maybe all freshmen. I mean, they have great poker faces. They don't like to show weakness. But if you can get to know them, I mean, that's just great. Getting to know them and helping them sort of open up to you, that's always fun.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to echo what my colleagues have said, but I'll extend it a bit further. Because they're first year students at AU, most of them are coming to us straight from high school. And so I enjoy having an opportunity to introduce them to the workings of higher ed, because higher ed works very different than a typical K through 12 school. And so I find that first year students come here and they want to make the university better. They want to change. They are leaders from their previous school environments. And so I appreciate being in spaces where I can help them translate what does that mean in a college or a university setting? What does that mean to start a club? What does that mean to take leadership in a classroom? What does that mean to try something new? What does that mean to make new friends in a new friend group, doing this all away from home and away from family for many of them? And then the other joy I have is being able to demonstrate what allyship means. Again, I think that coming from a K-12 experience, they're used to a teacher who gives them a lesson, and then they have assignments, and then they turn in work. But I try and transform our relationship to that where they are able to see what is the manifestation of allyship. What does it look like when someone is rooting for your success in the classroom, and let them experience that type of learning, which may be unfamiliar for them from their K through 12 experiences. So it's the joy that comes because they're bringing this energy and this newness that allows me to move it further for them.
Thanks. So I'm going to borrow something that Ash always says. I'm retweeting all of you. Definitely joy comes from the excitement and newness of first year students. And I did want to just point out the joy also in transfer students. I've never taught a full section of transfer students, but I've substituted for some of the sections of encounters for transfer students, and they also have that same joy and excitement. And it's really fun to see how they grow together as a cohort. And there's a lot of work being done on helping them feel more community and feel more valued as transfer students. So I just wanted to add one more thing that I have found joy in this past semester in teaching encounters, which I can talk more about for those who are interested. Encounters has replaced AUX the feedback we had from students was they wanted a more intellectual or academic, more rigorous experience. And so what we do in Encounters is we engage with scholarly and academic texts and explore questions around why are we here in higher education? What is the history? What is the purpose of education? And why are you here? And I come from my own undergraduate experience as a very, very traditional liberal arts, right? Traditional in the sense like there was no, AU core. You took a religion or a philosophy class at my very small liberal arts school. You had to take a lab science, a non-lab science. You had to take 2 years of a language. And so I often know about myself that I have that bias, that I'm like, everyone should be at college because they want liberal arts, they want to explore. And it was a joy this past semester in understanding the whole range of purposes of why young people pursue a college degree, right? And it's also a joy for me in learning to accept and honor all of their reasons, right? And I've come to a place where we might think differently on what your undergraduate experience should be. And there are students who come and they really just want a degree, right? And they just want a job and they want to make money. And there's other students who want to explore all of the different academic programs and majors and fields. And I want to work and embrace all of those students and hope and aim that when they graduate, they will all be critical thinkers, they will be engaged citizens, and they will be thoughtful individuals. But it's been a joy for me in really embracing the whole range of our young people and their experiences and backgrounds and why they're here.
Thank you. If you can hold it,
Okay.
since I will continue with you. But thank you. I just listened to you and your experiences. I just want to say I can totally relate. I even taught AU experience back then. I see the energy that these students bring, and I can totally perceive the joy that you express as you're talking about these students. At the end of the day, I know a lot of you are here because there's joy in what we do in our teaching, and we really want to do the best job possible for our students. So thank you for that. Thank you for the joy that they bring, and thank you for sharing the joy that you feel teaching the students, and I am sure they feel the same way too. And I keep thinking, you are, and I know a lot of you are the first faces that they see in college and how important that is. So I think it's just beautiful. So I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I need to talk about the other side of the coin, which is challenges. With all this joy, we have some challenges that we have now with these new types of students that they have gone through a lot, from COVID to AI, social turmoil, and different scenarios that obviously affect the way they learn. So I wanted to ask you, maybe start with you, Lizzie, what are some common challenges that you have experienced in the last few semesters in your 100-level course classrooms?
Sure. Okay, I really prepared for this one because I chose one challenge, and then I wanted to talk about what we've done collectively as the Encounters faculty this past fall. So as I mentioned, Encounters is a 1-credit class where we're engaging in some difficult texts. It could be, reading Du Bois talking about purposes of higher ed. We read one of President Alger's legal pieces on the history of affirmative action. We read a David Brooks piece from The Atlantic. So a whole range, mostly academic though, David Brooks, and I think we had one other sort of popular press piece. And what we found across faculty, and I've got Sean and Ash here who can back me up, is students do not do the majority of students have difficulty finishing the reading before class. So instead of digging down and giving them a pop quiz, making sure they do reading outside of class, many of us pivoted and we took time in class for students to do the reading. So that might have been an abbreviated part of the reading, and some of the strategies that we use to help students do the reading. And you're also wondering, why do they need to do the reading? They need to do close reading because many of us believe pedagogically there's value in reading text closely, thinking about it, annotating. And so I just had a few strategies of what we came together with the Encounters faculty to help students do close readings. One is here's different options. So take class time, and I don't feel bad taking class time anymore to have students do a portion of the reading or the whole reading. For some of that class time, you could do a guided annotation. So for the Alger reading in particular, which was really hard for students, and it was also great for many students who wanted to be pre-law or go on to law school and saying, this is what you will be reading. that almost took the entire period. And we had, and I can share any of these materials with anyone, a guided annotation where it says, please read, pages 1 through 3. Oh, no, it's even shorter than that. Sorry. It'd be like, read the first 4 paragraphs, pause, reflect on these 2 points. Read the next 3 paragraphs, pause, reflect on these points. So it was really helping students who are struggling with annotation and close reading, how to do it. Highly scaffolded. Another tool to help students do close reading that we'd also use in class is a graphic organizer. I can also share that with you, that maybe helps students break down the parts of the reading. Also, I print out my articles now. Even in my class of 38 in encounters, I've been at AU for almost 19 years, and no one has ever told me I print too much. So, I mean, maybe now this is being recorded, so maybe they will tell me I print too much, but I print out the articles. I'm not assigning long readings. If students need accommodations to use their laptop, that's fine, but I've been printing out articles. When we're doing close reading in class, cell phones have to be put away. And we talk about this. I talk to my students about how hard it is for me now to concentrate and to do deep work when my cell phone is around. So I share my difficulty and experiences with technology and being distracted. So we do cell phones away. We have this very quiet space to practice close readings. And then the other thing that we're thinking about the faculty for encounters is doing a course reader. So, in old-timey days when many of us went to college, your professors often would give you this big Xeroxed, thick, like the UPS store would print it off. And so we're thinking about, can we do that for our students? So they would have the readings, they can annotate them in the margins, they can bring it with them to class, they're not always on a screen, and we're excited about this. It's a little bit trickier. It turns out you just can't drop off a whole stack of like copyrighted articles and UPS will print it out. So we're working on that. But like I said, printing out the articles, many students have told me it's been a relief to them that they can do something that's not on a computer. But those have been our strategies. I hope those are really practical of how we're helping students build close reading and annotation skills in encounters. Pass it to you.
Oh, that's great. All right, so challenges. I'll take it in another direction. One, helping students identify the difference between individual challenges that they're facing and systemic inequities. Because students will often come into the university setting and they will internalize challenges that they're facing and not recognize that this may be part of a larger pattern of higher academics. So examples, the number one issue that I find myself helping students navigate is financial aid. It usually happens near the end of the first semester or in the times that I teach complex problems in the second semester of their first year. When the first few months of the payment plan, things are going fine, and then there's something that kicks in December, Jan, and Feb, where things are not going fine and they're struggling. And they will often internalize this as some failure of them or their family to be able to make the payments. And I try and help them understand, how does higher ed work? What does this mean to talk to the financial aid office once the school year has already started? Another example are students who will come in and say that they are feeling lonely, isolated, don't feel a sense of belonging. This happened last semester in the fall. It was about the 4th or the 5th week of class. And so then I said, oh, okay, I'm gonna call her Mary. All right, Mary is saying that she's feeling lost and doesn't feel a connection. Is there anybody here in the room who wants to sell Mary on a club that they're a part of? And someone's like, oh, I'm in AU Dance in Motion and it's a lot of fun and I've never danced before, but everybody's really cool. And someone's like, oh, well, I'm in the blah, blah, and I never thought I'd do this and everybody's really nice. And so then we start talking about what are the clubs, the spaces, the people on campus that you felt a sense of belonging, and just normalize it for Mary. And we're almost like everybody talking about ways that they have been able to find something. But again, letting Mary know this is not because Mary is not belonging on campus, but there is a systemic inequity that takes place in higher education that students will often have to find ways to disrupt for themselves, particularly if they are from a minoritized background. And then the other thing that I want to name, and this became more clear to me this weekend, I was at an education conference speaking about the realities of navigating grief and trauma when you are in higher education. There's not a year that has gone by that I have not had a student who has navigated death of a loved one that is close to them, or if it's not death, then it's a family member that was diagnosed with a significant illness or condition. And yet they feel like they have to go to class the next day. They still have to turn in that next paper. And they're internalizing it like, I'm in college, I'm supposed to be able to do this, like, this is my responsibility. And letting them know that no, there are times and places where you need to pause so that you can take care of yourself. And this is how you do it in college. This is who you talk to. This is how you push a pause button. This is how you then can come back and restart. Which leads into the second challenge, is helping students understand that they have a right to be well. They have a right to experience wellness, authentic, full, and complete wellness in who they are, the expression of their authentic self, the expression of their authentic voice. And I try and model that by demonstrating my own strategies for wellness, the articulation of my own voice, the articulation and expression of my own identity, and letting them see this is how I'm showing up in higher education, and you too can express yourself authentically in higher education, particularly if they feel that the expression of that becomes more complex at a PWI. Then it becomes that much more of an invitation for me to say, let's go, let's talk about this, let's talk about how we do this in the space of AU and what we need to do at AU in order to create a space where we can feel a sense of belonging, where we can feel an authentic state of wellness. So those are some of the challenges, but that's how I try and mitigate it in the classroom.
Very cool. So reading, as Lizzie said, is a huge challenge. They're not doing the reading. I feel compelled to talk about, one of the elephants in the room, AI. So they're relying upon AI for summaries of reading, and our library databases give them AI. The databases have AI embedded in them. So anything that they pull up on the databases, they get an AI summary. I used to share an office with Allison Thomas, who's the head of academic integrity. We've been working together a lot over the years, and as director of writing studies, I'm working with her a lot again. She and I did a presentation to our council on how students are using Grammarly. I feel like this is an old problem, but AI has sort of shown a new light on it. But they have a sense that academic writing is perfect. It's maybe not stylistically energetic and compelling, but it's error-free. And I think that's why they lean on AI so much, because they feel like they cannot submit anything to me. Even if I say it's a draft, they can't give me anything unless it's mechanically perfect and sort of neutral in tone, personality-free or something like that. So I try to disabuse them of those expectations. We're saying more and more these days that we want to see your errors. We invite those errors. You're not going to get graded down for them. We want to see your sort of ideas and thoughts in action. We're putting even more emphasis on process and less on the finished product. We may even get to the point, some of my colleagues may even get to the point where they don't have an essay at the end of the semester to grade. They may just say, let's look at the individual pieces of a research essay. Have you do an annotated bibliography? Have you do some sort of a proposal? Have you do a statement of how you could contribute to this topic? All of that together is valuable. And if they can do those things, and maybe work on, sentence construction and paragraph construction. If they can do those things, then they can probably put together a decent essay. But it's the process that we're really trying to get them to do. And AI is making it harder for us to accept essays and not be suspicious of them. And I know Allison will tell you, she's probably told many of you, that the numbers of cases are going way up. The percentage of cases that are AI related have gone up. I get CC'd on all of the cases that involve college writing classes, so I know this is a problem. Yeah.
I won't talk about AI only because I think that's so big it deserves more sessions focused just on AI. And just, I'm not for it, I'm not against it. I tell that to my students. I know they're using it. I also know some students resent using it, and some have said it makes them feel dumber. So that's rather refreshing to hear. So to me, it reminds me of 20, 25 years ago where people didn't know social media. They knew something was coming. That's how I feel now. So I'm trying just to stay on top of the wave and not underneath the wave right now, and just see what happens. I don't teach as much writing as you do. That would be much more challenging. What I find is students have become prompt robots. They want the prompt. And that's what they're used to, the prompts. And I say, hold on here. I give them a lot of gray area, and that's what they struggle with, is the gray area, right? So I have to do a media fast and create a video about the media fast. And, well, what do you want me to answer? I give them a little bit of hints, but the prompts, they're not used to gray area. They're used to, like, find this thing, talk about this fact. So I'm dealing with that. Also just dealing more and more the last year. Students showing up late. I had one student, I told Kelly before this, that he told me at the first day of semester that he shows up late to everything. And he was going to do that for class, and he's been very consistent showing up late. I appreciated that he told me in advance. This is the other thing. Most students don't do anything in advance. They won't ask for an extension. They won't say, hey, this is going on. It has to fester, or they miss an assignment, and then later they have the reasons for it. So I'm trying to just let them know again, before beats later. Most of the time, say something before. I'll grant an extension. After the pandemic and we move tax day, we can move anything, right? The other thing is authentic self. I'm just trying to get them to speak in some classes, just to speak. And sometimes get them to speak face-to-face, looking me in the eye, is another thing that this past year, and also not following details. They're just instructions, or not just, there's basic stuff that I feel like some of them are freshmen in high school. So we can talk about the causes, but I just keep saying, like, you're an adult, you're here for a reason, you chose to be here, and this is stuff you're going to have to do. This is stuff so I get pretty real with them at some point. So that's it. Just, there's no way around it. I wish there was.
Thank you all so much. I knew AI was going to come up, which is one of the reasons we didn't include it as a question specifically about it. But I do want to touch on a couple of things before we move to the next question. One has to do with reading. So we've talked for a couple of years already about, like, how to teach students to write without the use of AI, because they obviously will not learn to write on their own if they let AI write their papers. But the question about reading is one that I've only recently actually started to think about. I want to put a plug in for Betsy Cohn, who is giving a workshop on May 15th as part of the Artificial Intelligence Institute, which is part of the May faculty workshops. And it's, she used to teach actually this workshop for many years called Getting Students to Do the Reading. It's a great workshop. And now she's teaching getting students to do the reading in the age of AI. So I recommend that highly. And then the other thing that it was something you said, Amara, which has to do with loneliness. I think there's an epidemic of it. We kind of know it in the world, but also among college students, perhaps especially among first-year college students. I happened to run into a student of mine, must have been Thursday, and I told her about this session and asked her, so she took my 100 level class a year ago, and I asked her, like, what would help you in your first year in terms of, like, getting started at AU? And she had a friend with her, and they looked at each other, and this is going to surprise all of you. They said, force us to do teamwork. You've heard it too? I mean, it blew me away, and I asked them to elaborate, and they just said, just force us to do teamwork and force us to do it outside of class. It's like the best tip ever, because that's how they make friends. they have a reason to get together outside of the classroom. So anyway, just wanted to add that in. And then I know some of you have already gone into some of the strategies already, but that is our next question. So I'll see if you can I'll pass the mic. It seems like the mic is just going back and forth, which is a perfect strategy. So what strategies have you identified and utilized to overcome some of these challenges?
So just riffing on that part about the teamwork. So most all my classes have some teamwork, and I just say it's because employers want it. Steph Curry is the best player on the planet, can't win anything for the players. Everyone needs a team. And I explained the class is a team. I said, I can't do this class without you. You have to show up here. And I do the stuff where they have to meet. Yes, you can meet in class. You have to meet out of class. And the other thing I do is have 3 or 4 times a semester stand up and meet someone new you haven't met. Talk about this reading. So they do meet people. So I think that's really important as first-year students. I also do the following things. I don't use the Q word. I never, ever say question. I don't say the word. So I would never say, does anyone have a question? They feel it makes them dumb. They don't understand. So I simply say, what's on your mind? Is there something you want to share? If it's still silent, then I said, talk to your seatmates, see what you two come up with. So that way it's not about one person, but I literally never say the word question. I think it's pointless, because unless you don't want a question, then you should say, does anyone have a question? I do personal sharing about my life within reason. I give a ton of examples to one point where a class wanted me to play ping pong with a student because I said I like ping pong. So we played ping pong, and then later one of those students did a whole thing like, does personal sharing in a classroom lead to more student engagement? Their conclusion was yes. So when they get to know you as a person, of course, you know their names, you know something about them, but know you as a person. So whatever you feel comfortable sharing, I think helps. I also don't use office hours as a phrase for lots of reasons. So I call them hangout hours. I call them student hangout hours. Started this about 10 years ago, and I knew it was a success when this one student, Sam, she showed up, and it's like other students had to talk, so they had to go to class, and she was just waiting there. I go, okay, Sam, what do you want to talk about? She goes, oh, I just want to hang out. And sometimes I do them on the roof of McKinley where it's nice. So I don't always do them. I do them outside at comfortable spaces. So if you have a space, get out of the office is sort of my suggestion. Other thing I do, building field trips, find a poster, tell why you like the poster with the team, report back. I do campus field trips, 15, 20 minutes just to get them up and moving, get them meeting other stuff. So these are some of the things I do. And so far, they seem to be working.
Those are great. You remind me of Teresa Larkin, physics professor who's just about to retire. She has coffee and snacks and all kinds of stuff in her office. She has had. I haven't visited her in a while, but she'd have coffee and snacks in her office, and students would just come and have a coffee and hang out. So that's a great idea. I love doing annotations. Just started doing that recently, as Lizzie was talking about, having them annotate the reading. Canvas has an annotation function, so they can do it on Canvas, and then you can make sure that they're doing it. I have a few students who I suspect might be using AI for that, but most of them, their annotations are quirky enough that it feels like they're genuine. So you just try to do a bunch of different things to get them to do the work, and maybe one of them is going to, at least one of them is going to work. As I said, getting to know them, that's always a great thing. Be compassionate, but also give them structure. I mean, they need structure. They want structure. I use labor-based grading, and one of the extra labor options that they have is to give a presentation. Another option is to be a test audience for the presenter. And in class yesterday, a bunch of them were just sort of coordinating. You're free right after class, right? Or you're free tonight. We're on for 8 p.m. So they were coordinating with their test audience. The presenters were coordinating with their test audience members, getting together to listen to each other's presentation to make sure that they're good when they get into class.
That's great. That's great. All right, so I'll share some of the practices that reflect some of what my colleagues have said. One, I start every class by all of us being invited to share good news, and then something that's on our minds, right? And so, in the process of sharing good news or something that's on your mind, it's helping us to get to know each other. And then I'm always talking, so I agree they have to know about us as people. Two, I do assigned seating. And I love telling them, I said, I know that I am the only faculty member you're going to have who does assigned seating. I said, and yes, I was trained as an elementary school teacher, but work with me. And that helps them to get to know each other. So we sit in table groups, and they're at a table group for 2 weeks. And then at the end of 2 weeks, they move to a different table group. So by the end of the semester, they've had an opportunity to sit close and personal with practically everybody in the class. So that, as you were saying, to get them to talk, I do a lot of talk at the table. So it's 4 or 5 people talking at a table about the reading or about the prompt or about the, I don't know, whatever article that we might be, whatever, talking about that day. And then for office hours, I've started creating community office hours. I started this about 8, 9 years ago. So it's community office hours because it's me with everybody who's in the office hour space and community. I do not anymore have people lined up inside the hallway to talk to me one at a time. I was losing my mind because they'd ask me one question, the next person would come in and ask me the same daggone question, then the next person. I was like, nah, we ain't doing this anymore. So bring them all in at the same time. And in community, you don't have to come and ask a question. You can just hang out. And then the other thing is I invite all of my former students to my office hours, community office hours. So I tell the freshmen, come to office hours. You're going to be hanging out with some of the seniors, some of the graduating folks who had me some years ago, and we're all going to be talking about different things. Just come and listen and just follow along. So there's ways that we can create an intentional learning community for first-year students.
Great, thanks. I have so many good ideas from y'all. So I know I had already talked about some strategies to a challenge, but I'm just going to build on some of the strategies everyone shared here that I also had prepared. So about community office hours, I've been doing that. I don't have enough. I'm down at Spring Valley. Students don't want to come there anyways. So I'll get a table in TDR and say I'm going to be at the first table or second table when you, not TDR, sorry, that's Mary Graydon, come to Mary Graydon. But my new idea, which I haven't done yet, but I'm going to try, is to tell students when I'm having lunch in TDR and then say, like, I'm going to be in TDR Tuesday for lunch at 12:30. Who's ever around, come join me. First year students, I think all of them have a dining plan. So that's a nice way to have a meal with students, but make it easy and not very stressful. They're not coming to my house. We're not meeting at a restaurant. It'll be at TDR. But the table in Mary Graydon has been really helpful. And for encounters, half of the students grade for their final project is they have to meet with their faculty member. And so what we would do for encounters, I'd have that table down there. I'd reserve it for a block of probably 2 hours. Students would come in groups of 4 and 5, and they would sit and they would all work together outlining their different final projects. And it was really fun. And then the informal evaluations that I received from the students at the end of the semester, many of them said that was their favorite part of class, and it was my favorite part as well. Because I could, in a class of 38, I could talk to everyone individually. It was really nice. And so I just had, when I was thinking about this as a strategy, it's just being accessible as a human, right? Sharing, I think Scott, all of you mentioned sharing your own experiences, what's difficult for you, what's joyful for you, being accessible as a human. And I have other things, but I think I'll save it for the next question.
Well, thank you. I love that idea. And thank you very much for being so open and talking about the challenges that you have perceived teaching our first year students and also great ideas, as you said. I'm having mental notes of all the great ideas that we're hearing today. I keep thinking about what Amara said earlier about wellness. I thought that was so impactful, that students have the right to be well. Keep thinking if they don't feel well, they're not open to learn. They're not open to learning. They'll be reluctant to read, as you said, Lizzie. They will go to AI, and they're just like starving for more communication, as you said, Scott, and teamwork, Anna. So it's almost like a circle, full circle that we can see in the students. So I want you to unpack this a little bit more and imagine that you're talking to your younger self, you're starting in your teaching career, or even you want to give some kind of advice to new faculty here at AU, or maybe someone that started part in, and about simple things that you can do to make this a very healthy environment for students. So what are some simple things any faculty member can do to support first-year students in the classroom?
Well, I have some simple things, but I just had a thought when you're like advice to new faculty. I don't know if this is for students in the classroom, but my advice is always good is good enough. Um, don't strive, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good when you're teaching, right? I think sometimes we just can go into the weeds and try to plan out an activity down to the exact minute, right? When maybe you just need to do the concept and rough outlines and let it evolve in class. Anyway, some really simple things. I think Scott or Kelly mentioned this. I mean, all of y'all do this. Like, we do placards for people's names. We make them the first day of class. I bring them every week for class. I'm pretty good with names and faces. I pretty much know, even like a class of 38, I'll know all their names, pretty quickly, but that means a lot. And then you can see the students on campus. Students want community. They want to feel valued. They chose AU, but they also want to feel chosen. Like, oh yes, I know you. You're, feel valued. I still do paper syllabi. I print it in colored paper, like yellow or purple or blue. I learned that from Jack Childs before he passed away many years ago. And it's nice because if students have a stack of notebooks, they can always find the syllabus. It'll be in purple. One other really simple thing that I've been doing recently is I collect and save free notebooks wherever I get them. And people give out really nice free notebooks nowadays. Like, it's like a moleskin notebook that's free. Anyways, I collect those. And in one of my classes, we do screen free unless you have an accommodation. And so I said, we're going to practice taking notes this semester. This isn't a 200 level class. Who needs a notebook? And so many of them will take one of the free notebooks from, a conference here or there. And also what I like in that too is that I encourage them, take notes for this class, but take notes when you're on campus. Oh, you went to the Greenberg Theater, like glue your ticket stub in here. Think of it as sort of a commonplace book as well. And just to help them understand that education is happening everywhere, not just in the classroom. So you're learning constantly at AU. Okay, that's enough for me.
So I'm not going to play nicely. I'm not going to answer the question about simple solutions. I'm going to argue that to do this work well, we need to be willing to lean into the complex. All right. So I'm going to reframe the question: what is needed to be bold, transformative, healing, justice, equity oriented, and be anti-racist? I feel that we need that more than we need simple solutions in this moment. So I want myself, and I'd invite anyone else teaching the 100 level courses, focus on building a learning community through authentic relationships. So you have to show up as your full and complete authentic self to make space for them to show up as well. We should be connecting our curriculum to real life or to reality. It cannot live in the clouds. Students will read, students will think, students will write if they feel that what they're being asked to do feels real. And we have to be willing to grow our own pedagogy. If you were teaching the same way you taught when you first entered the classroom, whenever you started teaching, then you're doing it wrong. You're absolutely doing it wrong. Even if you tell me you started teaching in the year 2025 and you're still teaching that way in the year 2026, you're doing it wrong. We have to constantly be learning to grow our own pedagogy because times are changing and our students are changing. So whether it's working with our Center for Faculty Excellence, whether it's finding other professional development opportunities in our academic disciplines, we have to grow our pedagogy or we are going to fail as educators for this generation of students.
I think I'm just going to echo what's already been said, but I had to, and still sometimes have to, keep reminding myself that even though teaching is sort of a performance, it's not about me in the classroom. If I afterwards regret the way that I presented something, or if I feel like, well, that thing that I did didn't even work, I just have to keep reminding myself the students, they're really not going to notice those kinds of things. So it's not about me, it's about them. And if I can sort of get out of my own way and give them opportunities to work together and to show me that they're learning, I think that's way better than, me and my elaborate slideshow and my long lectures that I've polished to within an inch of their life. So that's the advice that I would have given myself however many years ago.
Sorry for stepping out. My father called. He's turning 101 next month, and he's in the hospital. But he's very cheery. He's got his iPad. He's watching some show. So he's updating. So a lot of agreement here about the learning outside the class, and then how can students bring it in. For one class, I still use Facebook, and I explained to them it'd be the biggest country, still billion people have on it. Most classes I use LinkedIn, which is much more real because they're going to really have to be on LinkedIn. And so I take things, did you see or hear something outside? So bring it outside into through these mechanisms. You can use Canvas, of course, and blogs, whatever works. It's really whatever works. So bring that outside things in. It's always amazing to me what they find that I learned from too. I try and be flexible and firm, both things, flexible and firm. Just depends on the context, what we're talking about. Something for any faculty, not just new faculty, I would say get out of your office and get out of your building. I'm amazed when you walk on this campus who you see, who you meet, who you run into, and it's really cool because, you know, we got our people we like, the people we know, we can talk our learning stuff, but I really believe you have to get out of your building, so I'm thrilled to be here. The whole thing again with have students physically stand up, find some of the class I haven't met, so meeting new people, and just open conversation. So I don't do any, I speak, but I don't call it lecturing. I ask them for materials. What do they want to talk about? So it's much more of a community dialogue and conversation that they feel they have some agency and ownership in. And if they suggest something that I don't think is worthy, then we won't spend that much time on it. You know, I have no problem moving on.
Wow, this is amazing. Thank you all so much. So once again, I just want to touch on something. I think, Amara, you mentioned the idea that we kind of have to commit to reinventing our teaching over and over again, just based on the world around us changing. But I think also, and this might be implied by what you said, adapting to whoever is in our classroom in a given semester, or on a given day in a given semester, for those of you who teach more than one class. It's not easy. But it does make a huge difference, I think. And I think also, Lizzie, what you mentioned, learning your students' names as soon as you possibly can. It's a lot easier now that we have the photo roster on Canvas, by the way. How did we do it before?
For the record, I just discovered that.
Well, the other benefit is it keeps our brains healthy, right? We have to remember and learn. And another tip I'll just insert from what I have done for the last several years, I make a bet with my students that if I don't know them and their names by the end of the second week of class, and I have like 39 students, so I go through every single one and make notes about all the comments they make. If I don't know their names, they get candy. And of course, I always bring the candy. And so far, I've always known their names, and then they look so disappointed until I say, you can have the candy anyway. So it's a win-win. All right. So next, thinking a little bit outside of your own classroom, what resources would you recommend to your students that they seek out, and to your faculty colleagues to refer students to here at EU?
I used to take my classes to the Career Center because it's so freaking hard to find, but I even got tired of going up there myself, and I'm a big career believer, a big career champion. So that was one thing I used to do. I explained to them about accommodation doesn't mean a free pass. And also, your accommodation might not apply to class. So this is one thing I've noticed. They think accommodation is the same for every class. And like, I don't give a final exam, so your accommodation for a final exam is not relevant. So I'm trying to explain, check the syllabus, see what matters, and then let's talk before the thing that is in my class. I don't care about Kelly's class as much. I got enough with my classes, right? And yours are different. So that's one thing with the accommodations, and also just that they know there is help. So this is one thing that, are you aware of this? Do you know about the student counseling? Have you talked to your academic advisor? Have you talked to your career advisor? All these things, and a lot of times, maybe half know half the things. So most students aren't, they've absorbed so much. So just reminding them, depending on what their situation is, what they want to do, Hey, you should go here, you should go here, check this out, blah, 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 type thing. I'm not assuming that whatever they've gone through to get here, that they know everything. I'm not assuming that.
I'll just add, we have great student support system. I love the idea of the accountability groups that are relatively new. We have a great writing center. I tell students, get to know your professors, come and talk to them, get to know them as individuals to the best of your ability. I mean, the tuition is paying for all of this stuff, and they need to use it. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything you all have said. I think for me, I'm trying to be more intentional about talking to people when I meet them on campus, faculty and staff, because I've learned about resources that I didn't realize, because we don't go to the freshman orientation. I don't wish a new meeting on myself or any of you, but I feel like we need like a net summary, like what are they being oriented about, right? Like we need to know what these systems are. And then that way we're not afraid to pick up a phone or an email to call. There's a time I had to contact somebody at the counseling center to say, wait, tell me again, how does a student go if they need a free appointment? So then I could go back and tell the student, right? So we've got to like keep ourselves sharp on what are these student facing resources, because we're likely not using them for ourselves because they're student facing, but we need to know about them to be able to support students.
That's a great point that I'd like to echo, because I noticed a few years ago that students were getting different emails from the administration and faculty.
Yes, exactly.
And as a strategic communicator, I go, okay, that makes sense, different audiences. But what doesn't make sense is for us not to be aware of what students are getting. So it's very, AU needs to do better about letting us know what's happening on this campus. And so I would grade them a C at best right now. They might be doing an A job, but I don't know it. And I can't help as much, so 100%.
Those are all excellent. I don't have anything to add other than I just got a great tip that I wanted to share that never occurred to me along these lines, is to put on your syllabus the drop add dates and withdraw dates. I never knew to do that. I mean, it might be there somewhere in the syllabus template, but just the point of like making sure we know sort of the system's rules, regulations. Yeah, all great stuff.
Thank you. Great tips. Yeah, I do that too. It's quite useful. So continuing with this theme of resources and tips and practices, what novel approaches can we consider as a university to support students and faculty in 100-level courses, if you can think of more?
I think I'm tapped out on all of my ideas that I've shared of novel ideas, especially because Encounters is so new and we're still working on that together, the faculty and staff that are part of that. So I'll pass it over to my colleagues.
All right, I'm ready to go on this one.
Good.
I ain't doing the novel. I'm going old fashioned, right? Because I think that there is quality in teaching what's known. So I made a list, but my list does not assume that AU is not doing these things, right? If there are things on here and you're like, hey, Amara, AU's already doing it, is because I'm saying it because I want AU to continue, all right? Because I think it's important. So the first is that there's no prerequisite obligation in a 100-level class. When I teach my complex problems, I'm free as a bird to teach what I want, because there's no one in School of Ed saying I have to cover this content because it's a prerequisite for the such and such class later. That's so necessary for 100-level classes, I feel, to be successful. Reward my innovation and creativity in the classroom. Continue to assign expert teachers to 100-level classes. This is not the space for teachers who don't know how to teach. This is where the experts need to be. Allow me to align my service with my teaching. When I can do service that directly impacts first-year students, my teaching of first-year students will be strong. We do not need to invest a lot of money in movie nights, parties, or treats for first-year students. I would want the university to invest money in supporting faculty who wish to mentor students. Allow us to advise student clubs that will reflect our ability to support our students in and out of the classroom. Allow us to have students as research assistants in their first year so we can teach them research skills. Allow us to teach independent studies and supervise them and have them count towards our teaching load. give us money to go to lunch with our students. Other universities will do this lunch with a professor. I would love to meet my students and take them to lunch and allow us to create opportunities to teach outside of the classroom. Teach-ins, other settings that universities are known for out-of-the-class teaching, and reward that as teaching that is seen and recognized by the university. It will make a difference for first-year students.
Yes.
Can I disagree with you and then agree with you? So the disagreement, I think there needs to be more parties, more events, and more food when the weather permits on the quad or in buildings, especially for first-year students, so that they get a sense, AU's fun, they meet new people, and this is college. We're not Big Ten. We're not a party school like Georgetown is known, and others. So what can we do that has some fun outside the class? So that's, I think more on that's great. I do agree about the money. I would say coffee money would be great with the budget is tight, you know, take your class to coffee. The one thing that bugs me is we're like prisoners of our experiences. We have this continued forced march of 3-credit courses over 4 years. We've tried to do the 3-year different scholar program a few years ago, maybe with some success. We got a lot of rules and regs, especially with the core, especially with transfer students coming in, that provides some limits. So how can we as a university be more flexible? Because what we are facing, no one has seen before in this country. And I'm not scared, I am concerned. And I think we're also we're dinosaurs moving so slowly sometime that we have to be quicker, and maybe us as professors have to take more risks. Don't ask permission, just do it. And if you get some pushback, you get some pushback. So what? I just think that there's too much SHIT happening to stand still and do the same old 3-credit 4-year. Sorry.
I'm just going to stand with what they've said and agree with it.
There is a curriculum reform going on, Scott.
The best thing I've heard all year is 90-day sprint. When I heard that from Vicky, the provost, I was like, wow, someone in academia actually believes in quick timelines. Now, the 90-day sprint has been,
No, it's going.
it's moving, yes.
Transfer student stuff is going.
The transfer, we've made some progress. We need more of that. So that's good stuff. So thank you, Lizzie, for being positive, optimistic, and I support that. So that is very good news. I want to be fair and square here. And I said sorry, I want to take that back, because this is one thing that I do in my classes when a student, which is often female, says they're sorry, and it's usually because they want to contribute or they feel like they're butting in, and I say, if there's no need to say you're sorry, please don't say it in class. If you've done something wrong, apologize to someone, but so I cut them right off. Do not say sorry, so I'm not sorry.
Because before you said you were. Thank you.
That's true.
Thank you all so much. Were you done? Did you want to add? Yeah. So we have a little bit of time for, I'm not going to say the Q word sitting next to Scott here. So what's on your minds? Anything you want to share? So just wait for the microphone. I guess I have the microphone, so I'm going to walk over. And so just raise your hand if you have any requests, any inquiries for the audience, for the panelists. Here we go. Could you also tell us your name?
Hi, everybody. I'm Russell Robinson within School of Public Affairs. Teach my student age range is 17 to 63. So the question I would have is, I'm finding before books, research, grades, mental health and wellness, and anxiety are the hub that drives everything toward lack of academic success and then retention. What are some of your thoughts on how we can make sure our students are navigating their first year of adulthood in a way where they can manage their stress, their anxiety, and their wellness?
So I think we've all touched on this, managing their expectations and helping them see that perfection is not what we're after, that we're after their learning. A finished product is maybe a measurement of what they've learned, but also just sort of having them talk about what they're learning. That's also a measurement. So if we can just sort of tamp down on their perception that we're expecting them to be fully formed scholars right off the bat, because that's just not a thing.
The thing I've been known to say in my class is if you came here to AU to show me what you already know, you spent a hell of a lot of money trying to show off. I was like, you came here to learn something. So let's make some mistakes. Let's learn something. Let's lean into what we don't know. We also talk very openly about how we are maintaining our health and well-being, particularly during the week before or the time of midterms. And I just learned last semester that STEM folks have 2 seasons of midterms in a semester. So now I'm like adjusting when we talk about this. But we'll talk about therapy. We'll talk about, is anybody able to maintain their therapist that they had in high school? Or have they come here to DC to have to find somebody new? Do you know how to get an appointment with CAPS? Do you know how to use the apps and supports that we have for mental health support? Going along with what you had said, Scott, I have it in my syllabus to explain how to ask for an extension on a paper. And we talk in class about what language do you use? Where do you say it out loud? Do you put it in an email? What do you have to reveal? What do you not have to reveal? All to normalize, like, how do you advocate for your own health and well-being during this time? And then talking about our own health and well-being, right? And I will often say, I had a great evening last night because I didn't do any work and I watched a movie instead, or I went out to the water and read a book for an hour or whatever, just trying to bring these conversations up into class so that they can realize that the pursuit of health and well-being is normalized. And with first-year students, we often do spend time complaining about how that wasn't addressed effectively in K-12. That's a good way to get them started. They can rat on what they didn't have in the previous school experience and be like, so what do you want differently for yourself now? If that wasn't working, what you gonna do differently now so you don't have another 4 years like that? So those are some of the things that I'm trying, and I'm definitely trying to push people to CAPS. Because I figure if we can get more students knocking on the door of the counseling center, then that's going to help them advocate for more staff and more resources. I hope that's how the system would work. But I'm trying to get them to use the university supports. Oh, and the Center for Student Belonging. Sorry, I do that also, particularly when I'm working with a student from a marginalized background. Being able to say there's other places on campus where you can find your people, find support, find affinity. So it may be a therapeutic need, but it may be anxiety, depression that kicks in from lack of feeling connected and tapped into the university. It's hard. I agree with you. I think it's a top concern for first-year students.
I actually schedule a mental health day every semester during the date when I normally have a midterm, which I don't have anymore. It's now quizzes distributed, and the students really appreciate it. Don't tell the dean, please. I'm kidding. It's approved. I stole the idea from somebody else in SPA, actually, but it's one way to do it, and talk about it, and talk about using the time that you would have been in class to focus on something that makes you feel less stressed.
So this year, I'm Muslim, and so I observe Ramadan and I celebrate Eid al-Fitr after Ramadan. And this year, Eid al-Fitr was during the spring semester, so I canceled class at Friday. And I put a note in there. I said, we're going to have a wellness day. I am celebrating and honoring a religious holiday as an act of well-being. You engage in your own act of well-being at this time, because I want them also to recognize when you are from a minoritized background and your schedule doesn't work on the schedule of the university, make your schedule work for the university, right? Take off. So we talked about students who were taking off for Passover, who were going home over Easter weekend, and we celebrated that as, yes, this is what we have to do in order to make the university rhythm stop so that we can be with family and honor the traditions that are so meaningful to us. So saying these things out loud, I think, is going to normalize it.
I did have something to add, thinking about the wellness day, which I've done in the past. Usually when I have a class that meets twice a week, I think it's hard with the block class. Anyways, remind students not to come to class if they're sick, and have them do not eat. I am so annoyed when students email to see they can Zoom in when they're home sick. I'm like, no, if you're sick, you're sick. Just rest. So remind students of that as well.
And one way to get around that is to actually record your classes using Zoom, even if you don't have any students in it. And they will ask if they can join the Zoom, and you can say no, because it's just for recording.
And I'm going to stand because that's just how I am. Lizzie knows that. Hey, everyone. My name's Ashley, or Ash. I'm the Associate Dean of Students, and I want to give a quick plug. Nuri is here. She and I have been talking about students all week, actually, and it's only Tuesday. But if you ever have a student who says, I'm stressed out, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go, send them to us in the Dean of Students office. Just tell them to email us or to come on over into our office. We are 2 floors above the Bridge Cafe, 1 below the now avoidant Scott of the Career Center. But we are, when you think about sort of a one-stop shop, we carry caseloads of students all year, from their first year up through their super senior year or into their graduate work. And we're focusing with them on all of the intersectionality of their identities, of what they are managing. And from so many of them, we hear, I don't want to disappoint my faculty. And we say, they don't want you to be struggling. And how do they know you're having a hard time? And you don't have to divulge everything, like you can do that with me, but then how can I help advocate on your behalf? And so I think our students, and Amara, I appreciate you saying the K through 12 system. I have really true flashbacks now. My mom teaches kindergarten, and she said to me yesterday, I've got a teacher who's being removed from her kindergarten class, and they asked her if she wanted to teach first grade. And she said, no, put me in second, because in first grade, they're still too much like kindergartners. And I think we're seeing that with our first year students. They're still too much sort of like the high school them, right? And they don't quite know yet how to be an adult. And so we spend a lot of time explaining to them, you need to find your adult on campus. Yes, you're 18. Yes, you are legally an adult. But by that, I mean, who is paid to be here that you can speak to when you're having a hard time? And I so appreciate hearing the amount of normalization of a lived experience, what you're doing. Today's been a hard day, giving students that permission, because I think to the point of students wanting prompts and wanting follow-up and to know exactly what can I do, sometimes they take your syllabi as, think about the most authentic thing or most common thing that you value, whether that's scripture, whether that is a Beyonce album, which would be in my book. They take that to mean this is all it is. So if Scott says there's no extensions on this particular thing, I can't even ask. I can't even advocate for myself. So we spend a lot of time helping them balance that, right? And so we're talking about everything from intermittent disruption to class, of like my anxiety's flared up, my depression's flared up, through to I've been hospitalized for a major surgery because I'm managing a significant mental health condition. And we spend a lot of time unpacking and repackaging your identities, where they fit, how you fit and feel within them, and then how we are actively working against or working with those for you as an institution. And it's exhausting, right? And so we want students to know that none of them are doing it alone. But I think a lot of times they feel like they have to have it. So when in doubt, send them over to us in the Dean of Students office. We actually, Alexis, one of my colleagues is here, and we'll be tabling afterwards as well. But this is the work that we do every day.
I love sending students your way. I had the most unusual thing this year. A student did not attend one class. A student didn't attend one class till after spring break. I'd never encountered this. Sent your way.
Yep.
And they're now attending class. And you sent the letter, and so it works. So I love just Dean of Students that just, like it's an easy, obvious thing to do. So keep it up.
And please know, we'll never ask you to do anything untoward or difficult. We're on like week 13, 14, and we say, if you haven't passed in any work for the past 14 weeks, there's no amount of letter that I can produce to your faculty to compel them to give you an incomplete or to compel them to modify the assignments that you haven't passed in. So similarly, we give them some pretty good structure around expectations, and that sometimes the grade that you earn is the grade that you've earned because you've deserved it based on the progress, lack thereof, right? And we can make accountability points and accommodations where needed, but oftentimes our students don't know where to hit the start button, right? They need to hit a pause, but they haven't hit start to move towards the pause. So email us, come find us.
Thank you, the panel. My question is to follow up with Scott's. You mentioned firm but flexible. So I want to ask how you make that balance. Just like in one of the previous EFE events mentioned, as a mentor, you need to balance backbone with heart. If you are too firm, then students might say, oh, that hurts my feeling. But on the other hand, if you're too flexible, then students might complain, oh, we paid $80K to go to AU and we learned nothing, just be happy like a daycare facility. That's also no good. So how do you find the optimal balance? And also, I want to follow up with Amar. So maybe should there be some training for faculty members how to be a good therapist so you can take care of people's feelings when you talk to students. I also have a question for you, Elizabeth. How do you make a reservation at TDR?
Who are you and where do you teach? I want to get in your class.
I teach intermediate corporate finance.
What's your name?
Chang.
I can't wait to sit in your class if you let me.
Thank you. Sure.
Great, thank you.
All Denise are first. No reservation needed at TDR. Just gone downstairs. Yeah.
No therapist training needed at all. I am not a therapist by any stretch, but I'm going to say something that maybe it's not talked about often in higher education, but I've written an essay about it, and by the end of class, end of the semester, I end up talking about this more openly with my class. I love my students. I love my students. And so when you love someone, you want the best for them. When you love someone, you want them to succeed. You want to see them transformed, and you truly care about them. And I feel that that comes through with the students that I work with, and I feel that they feel it from me. And that love is powerful, and that love can transform, and that love can allow someone to be seen. And if more people in higher education loved each other, we'd have a very different experience here. But mistake known, I am a rigorous teacher. I absolutely teach my students work, and I am not a therapist.
I love learning, and I love my students to learn. That's as far as I'll go with love. What I do tell them, though, is feedback is neutral. And don't get too excited if I say, this is the best paper I've seen all year. That just means you have to do good again. And if you didn't do good, it's not personal, it's neutral, and you have to decide what feedback to accept, especially when there's contradictory suggestions and tips. Parents say one thing, you say another, the friend says something third. They have to judge that. So feedback's neutral is a big way that I get through this idea of flexible but firm. And then I had a student who's been good. All of a sudden, they weren't there for a week or two. So I was tempted to do the alerts, right? So then you get in this academic alert or care alert. But what I did instead was sent them an email, and they wrote back very quickly, good sign, and they wrote back about this much, another good sign. They explained they're having some challenges, and they didn't tell me the details. I don't want the details. And then they're helping a friend with the details. That's all I knew. And guess what? They've been showing up to class. So sometimes it's just reaching out by email or talking after class is enough. That they know they can't get away with it. They know that someone cares. You have to do something. So you have to do something, and every situation is a little bit different. And I had one student gets into identity. This person is a giant, but they were scared to speak to me because they were concerned they were going to let me down. I didn't even know them. So there's all these things that happen, and sometimes you just don't know. It took the TA helping. So you have to ask your TA, you have to look at their faces. I just say sometimes, is everything okay? I just email or sometimes text, and just, is everything okay? And that sometimes is enough to get them out.
Sometimes you might run into them on campus on the way out of the building where you're about to teach. And
That's
that,
why
that
you've got
too
to
is an opportunity.
get out of your office, get out of your building.
We had one more. That's the last we have time for. I still didn't mention the Q word.
Well, I'm Anna Littman, and I'm from the Career Center. And I would like to invite Scott to come back. We have a new coffee machine. And I would like to invite everyone here to come to Career Center. We're happy to help you with our resources, with ideas that we have for how to boost retention here, how to give students reasons to stay at AU and enjoy all your amazing teaching and see how it translates into their professional success. I think when we do it earlier, when we show them what you do as professors, how you help them and teach them and educate them, and how that could be translated into their professional success. I think that they value that, and they hopefully will stay with us until they finish their degree, and maybe even going to the master's degree here. So yeah, we tell students, please come early and come often, and that's what I would like to tell you. The same thing to you, to all of you.
Anna, I'm pro-Career Center, I'm pro-career, and something I'm now going to ask my dean if we can do is what they do in SAS, where the career advisors are actually in the building. So I think I love that too. That should be, I think, everywhere, that the career advisors for that major are in the building, not just in the Career Center. Again, I'm pro-career.
Thank you.
Pro-Career Center.
I think that we can do both, because we have really good drop-in hours in the Career Center as well.
SIS has one measure, sorry. No, with all my respects, but SIS has one measure. But we couldn't do that, right, with all our 61 measures, but it's great that they can do it there.
But we had two advisors for SOC, so I think more FaceTime and more presence from a human being with career makes it easier for the students to connect to the career. It's just what it is. I can't solve every major. I just got 4 or 5 over here. And I'm going to be in Prof. Chang's class.
All right, so this was a really great session. We're not done yet, so we're segueing into a mini fair now. Just sit tight for a moment. So we have 5 representatives from student-facing offices in the back. Some of them are in the audience still, so you'll see them. So please stay. We have until 4:15. Before you head back there to get all the important information and ask all your questions. I said it. Just a huge thank you to our 4 panelists. You have given us so much wisdom today. And thank you all for coming. And let's go to the back of the room.